We welcome on a very special guest. He covers the Aggie sports for the Statesman. You might recognize him from his all 22 breakdowns on Twitter. It's Tony Catalina. Tony, what's up, man? How are you doing?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
For
Awesome.
sure. So, yeah, no, happy to have you. So like I mentioned, Tony posts these all 22s every week, which are an absolute godsend of content. Could not do this Marcel Reed daily Heisman post without you. I literally like type in Marcel Reed, go back. I try not to use yours every time, but like it's just too convenient and the angles are just fantastic on those.
Yeah, getting that it's been great, and I know it's not widely spread, and my DMs are usually filled with people asking how can they get it and stuff like that, and I'm not at liberty to say sometimes, but it's good content. I think it gives people a unique perspective, especially the end zone cut when you're looking at run blocks and maybe some of the crazy stuff Marcel does and how he reads plays. So I'm glad people enjoy it. I enjoy it because I'm a film guy first and foremost. So I think it's kind of fun to put that out there and see a different angle from it from Saturday.
Do you
Yeah.
agree that EJ Smith's jump cut looks better from all 22 or from the ESPN broadcast?
The all 22, sometimes, man, you see the holes and you're when you see it on film and as you get the down the line and you're like, I don't know. And then you look at it from the end zone. I'm like, oh man, that was kind of smooth, and he's got a quick burst. I don't think EJ gets enough credit for how quick and shifty he actually is a little bit.
Yeah, EJ's been great. And I think overall, I just wanted to kind of talk to you about because there is a different perspective when you're watching the L-22, right? You can see pretty much the decision making for the quarterback, maybe something set up by Colin Klein a little bit better. And then obviously there's the defensive part of things too. But I wanted to ask you, what kind of stands out from watching the L-22? What jumps out to you after we watch the regular broadcast? We form our opinions, but then you're going down, breaking down the tape. Is there anything that jumps out?
Yeah, for me, I'm always interested because I got like a quarterback background. So I try to look at Marcel Reed and I see like the progressions of where his eyes are and what the route combinations are and where he's looking first. Sometimes, he doesn't hit the right, or I wouldn't say the right guy. He doesn't hit the wide open or the obvious route all the time. I think you see him trust Craver and a lot of the drags and some of the things they do over the middle. He's waiting for those to develop. So sometimes Theo or Borcher may be open early, but he's thinking bigger and he's thinking more the second level. So you kind of see where he's at in the progression there. So I think it's always fun to kind of see it from the QB's lens, and you can see where the protection is and maybe why he slid left or where things got a little choppy up front. And it's tough sometimes to see it from the basic TV camera and even the all 22. Like when it's the wide lens, it's tough. But I mean, I know all 22 is like the phrase, but I'm a huge fan of just the end zone cut because it really helps the pass rush, the front seven, the running backs. Like there's so much you can gain from that unique perspective that anytime I'm looking at it, I think I gain a lot more just by watching that.
Yeah, definitely. The depth perception aspect of the end zone cut for quarterbacks, when you're watching some of the throws they make, it's like they have to know that that guy, like that safety, is 4 yards back from this yard line or whatever to have the confidence to make that throw over the middle. It is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at like, just for example, when he cut or kind of, you know, audible to the KC Conception touchdown, like you kind of see that unfold, the mental processing of, when the communication in his headset cuts off and it's just him reading and identifying and understanding. And he talked about it when we spoke to him on Tuesday about, overloading the protection and taking a chance and getting the ball out there. Those are things that you see processing from a different angle that sometimes, because cameras will cut to the sideline, they'll look, and then right before the snap, they're on the play. When you get the all 22, it's no frills, it's everything. You get to see it all kind of unfold. So I think it's a really cool, unique perspective for fans.
So, I think Marcel's progressed the most mentally, just mental fortitude of the guy is exploding. But one thing that I have noticed is it seems like he might be a little hesitant to run. I mean, maybe not in the last couple of weeks where he's broken off the 50-yard, like just bombs, but does it look like that to you, to where it looks like he's maybe wants to throw it more than he wants to run it? Basically, every single time he touches the ball, drops back to pass, he's a throw first guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I've spoken to him and I've spoken to his father and some of his QB coaches that he works with in the summer, and they're adamant about the fact that, like, hey, I'm a QB first. Like, I understand I'm an athlete. I understand that I can use my feet, and that's something that is a God given ability. But he sees himself as a pocket passer who can hit every throw, can read every protection, or anything that's thrown in front of him. He understands that he can attack that. Now, I think he understands the value of what he brings when he's healthy, and sometimes taking unnecessary shots in games that don't really matter, or they're already in hand, is something that he's more cognizant of. But when he needs to have it, and there's a moment where he needs to go and get it, like he did against LSU or any other time, like he'll go and take it, right? But he understands staying upright and staying clean is how this football team is going to be successful. Adding to the fact that they got way more weapons this season than they did last year, I feel like he doesn't have as much on his shoulders to go and out there and just make a play. He has guys that can go make plays for him.
I love that you just said that for so many reasons. We've had this argument with one of our other co-hosts on the show endlessly all year long. He thinks that the coaches have just brainwashed Marcel into, hey, you can never run the ball. We always thought, hey, he's waiting for the right moments. He's become a better decision maker, and it's coming through in the tape. We even said earlier in the season, we're like, hey, he doesn't need to be running the ball against UTSA. Let's hold that for LSU. And that's kind of how it unfurled. But I agree with you also. There's a self-awareness from him. One, you can tell he's not trying to take hits, which is fantastic because look, his frame, he's 180 pounds soaking wet. We can't have that. And he does trust the fact, hey, I've got all these weapons. I've got these playmakers. I don't have to be Superman. And I think that has been his biggest attribute this year and why we could talk about, and we're going to talk about the Heisman stuff later on. But I think that that's really come through, and that mental part of it is amazing. Don't know if it's going to lead to, hey, you're going to be a top 10 draft pick in 2025, but I think there is a foundation now for him to build as a passer next year, and then maybe we get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it really is impressive when you look at it, because there were tons of questions about just his arm talent, his development this offseason. What would this group look like with him leading it? Not many people were able to go out on a ledge and say, like, hey, like, I believe that Marcel's going to take a sizable jump. I think some fans did because there was hope and belief that he could. But what he has done from the end of last year to this season, it truly is impressive. Like, he's somebody who, when you watch him, you could just tell the game is slowed down. You can tell that everything is just starting to click. And every game he seems to be more comfortable. And sometimes he's got that little bit of a gunslinger in him, like the LSU throw, trying to rip one in the red zone. And he knows, like, I think it was really impressive because he spoke after the game, like, he knew what he did wrong in the moment, right? Sometimes these quarterbacks make mistakes and they're so, like, confused, and they don't know where the defender came from. He instantly understood what the mistake was, and then he won't make that again. So he's just seeing the football fields. He's seeing his weapons at a whole different clip than he ever did last year. And you got to think that that's going to continue to progress. He's really just the first year starting quarterback. So a lot of good signs from him, just as developing as a QB.
Yeah, you have no idea how hype I am right now. Oh my gosh. I've been waiting for this for so long. Just a quick question before we go to like more like Marcel potential Heisman and go into the season and on looking the season. Do you watch like the line movement of like the spread and you're like, oh, moved a point and a half A&M's favor, they're locked this week? Do you do that, or is it just us?
I'm into it. Like, I look at it when I do my, preview predictions, and I look at it early. I was actually really surprised to see, I know South Carolina is bad in a lot of statistical categories, but 19.5 points for an
No way.
SEC opponent is crazy. Just knowing what Lenora Sellers did to this defense last year, and just, listen, A&M can go out there and win by 21 and I wouldn't be shocked, but just to see that 19.5 number was pretty, like, alarming to me. So yeah, I definitely aware of it. I think it helps pull the picture, and Vegas is usually on the money here.
I think Vegas is tired of losing money on us because we've covered like 5 or 6 games in a row. So I think that plays into it a little bit. But yeah, and everything leading up to this game, it's been, I guess, on a week-to-week basis, it's how does Elko get these guys up for this game in particular? Whether it's like an inferior SEC opponent, whatever it may be. I've always circled this game no matter what the record is. This team ruined your season last year. You cannot overlook them. And we've got to have one loss maximum going into the postseason, I feel like, to be in position to have a real shot at a national championship. So we can't trip up against this team when we've got a trip to Austin coming. What do you think about this game? Is there anything as far like Lenore Sellers, it felt like he was going to be a Heisman candidate this year, I don't really know if he's been injured. I don't know what's been going on. They've had the worst offense in the SEC. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think to answer your first point, we spoke to Tori in York Tuesday before we talked to Marcel, and I asked him straight up, I'm like, is revenge on the minds of you guys after last year? They kind of derailed your season. When South Carolina beat them last year, it all kind of went downhill from there. Le'Veon Moss got hurt. So there was just a lot of pinpoint you can say, hey, things started to go south at that game. And he looked at me before I could even get like my full question out and just simply said, it's personal. Right. And so like when you looked at me and he said that, I was like, sometimes you look at the way these guys talk, and I've heard Tony in York talk enough times. Like we've spoken to him at least a dozen times at this point this season. And when he looks you dead in the eye and he's like, this is personal, like I was like, all right, I believe him. And then when I asked him Marcel, he kind of echoed the same sentiment. So I don't think that this game is going to be one of those where they look past it, right? They fixed the Auburn loss. They fixed the Florida, anytime they had an opponent, a Notre Dame loss, like they found ways to try to just get their get their revenge back. And I think that continues with South Carolina. And I think the ultimate, and we can talk about it as reporters and fans and whatnot, like that ultimate get back will be in Austin in the final week. And that's kind of what they're thinking of, is this is the revenge tour. But yeah, taking it 1 week at a time, I don't think they're ever going to look past South Carolina.
We're 9-4
Yeah.
right now. 9-4 until
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina, man, they you look at the way they are, and it's just the numbers don't make sense. I mean, they get sacked the most in the SEC. They're the worst offense in the SEC. They got one of the worst run defenses in the conference. Like the only thing they do really well is they defend the pass well. They're like sixth in the SEC at defending the pass, but that's because teams can run the football on them at will. So it's just they haven't had much talent. Lenore Sellers, his numbers are down. They fired the offensive coordinator. It hasn't looked good in a lot of senses. So, and you're playing an A&M team that just drops points on teams in bunches. So I don't think it's a good situation for the Gamecocks, but just like every week, A&M got to go out there and prove it.
They've got to. And so South Carolina fired their offensive coordinator. I don't know if it was it last week or has it been a few games? I honestly don't know. I didn't check.
Yeah, it was before the bye week game myself. Then they switched it over to Mike Fury. It was Mike Shula. So now, A&M's got to prepare for an offensive coordinator that hasn't called the play all year. So that is a factor, right? All these tendencies out the window, you don't really know what they're going to play with and what they're going to try to do. But you think on just the talent basis, A&M should be able to weather whatever that storm is.
That's true. But
If
I
was
will
going
say
to have
one quick thing. I will say, new offensive coordinator plus
usually a
19.5. Hey man, that's got to be like plus 800, right? Like on the money line.
I disagree. I mean, I like whenever there's a coach firing, the next week I'm betting on the underdog. Like I feel like there's always that boost, so I'm a little concerned. I mean, hopefully we just smoke them, but
I actually tend to agree with that. I think there's some like emotional charge, whether that's the first drive, the first quarter, the first series, whatever the case may be. I would understand if the South Carolina team was loaded with talent. I do have respect for the quarterback, but I think A&M has found a way to ride the wave and come out on top and end up extending themselves because they're the more conditioned, they're the stronger team, they're the more talented team. So whatever South Carolina comes out with, I'm sure they're going to give you your best shot, but ultimately I think the cream rises to the top.
this feels almost like a scout Arch Manning type of game. Like, hey, go wrap this guy up. Like, let's contain him as a running quarterback. And I don't want to say that as we're taking this team lightly. I don't want that to be the case whatsoever. But it does feel like after the Taylor Green Arkansas game, we've got to figure out how to contain these dual threat quarterbacks, especially these big bodies. Can we take them down? Can we gang tackle? I think that's going to be the biggest test. And if they pass that test, I think this is the game where if Elko just unloads and we do cover the spread and we look dominant, I'm going to feel really, really good about our chances, not only for a deep run, but as legitimate contenders.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on the money there with that. Lenore Sellers is a big dude. I mean, this guy's like a Cam Newton sized guy. Like he's really tough to bring down. He was hard to bring down last year, and they've kind of had their issues with mobile guys who can extend plays. And we saw what Taylor Green was able to do. And now Lenore Sellers doesn't have the same talent, and he hasn't had the same season, but he's still in the mold of a guy who could be dangerous if you don't go wrap up and form tackle.
Yeah, we saw it last year. You can put
He
the team
messed
on.
around. What was it? 23, 26 missed tackles in this game last year.
Yeah, it was over 20. It was nuts.
But that's just fuel for Elko, so I love it. Because otherwise, like, what would we have going into this game? So, all right, let's get back to Marcel Reed, because I've loved this whole conversation, especially with you, because we're getting very technical with it. But we all really want Marcel to win Heisman for obvious bias reasons. It does feel like it's a wide open field for who can win it. There's not really been anyone that jumped out and said, I'm taking this. I mean, Fernando Mendoza had that moment last week, but hey, it's against the 3-5 Penn State team. It kind of feels like Marcel has that story behind him, the aura. Do you think he has a real shot to win it, or does he need to prove something these next few games?
I mean, I like that. I like it. If you're looking at it in segments, right? 3 guys go, 3 guys end up in New York. I think he's well in the conversation to belong in one of those seats. I think it's gonna come. He's gonna have to play exceptionally well against South Carolina. He's gonna be able to not play with his food against Samford. And if he walks into Austin and he beats Texas, Texas to go 12-0, right? And to walk into the SEC championship game, I just don't know how you keep a guy like that out of that conversation, especially with, you mentioned how wide open it is. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, yeah, sure, he's a great quarterback. The kid's played well. His moment was that he beat a 3-6 Penn State team, with the last second play with their backup quarterback. And right now Marcel's moment is a game-winning drive against Notre Dame, who the committee has in the top 10. Now recency bias gets into it, so that's so long ago. He's going to have to go and do another moment, and that moment could come in Austin if A&M goes in and blanks the Longhorns, and Marcel plays well and has 3 touchdowns and 300 plus yards combined. I just don't know how you leave him out of that conversation.
It's
Everyone's going to be
truly
watching.
rigged. It's truly rigged if he's left out at that point.
I mean, just think about it. If we talk about biases, a 12-0 SEC undefeated team with a quarterback who is, if there was a comeback player of the year or, most improved, he would be in that conversation too. This is a story that people root for. This is a kid that is very easy to root for. They talk about how do you represent the Heisman. Marcel's a great kid. He's somebody who does it the right way. He's a leader. He's a good dude from a good family. Like, this is everything that you would want from a Heisman winner, and he's out there balling. So it's just a lot of good things in his corner to say, man, this kid is definitely warranted in the conversation.
It does feel like if we look back at this season, are you really going to pick Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson? Like when Marcel Reed is out there? Because Marcel Reed feels like this electric football character that we can remember. And hopefully he does have that moment against Texas. That would just be the cherry on top of this season. If we go in there, go 12-0, and Marcel has this Heisman moment in Austin, I don't know how my brain would handle that going forward.
He literally just needs one post-game interview, flash a little charisma, get the national media going about it, and then he's locked. He's already done everything on the field that he can.
Well, I'm sure you guys have heard it. I'm not telling you anything you didn't, but we had talked with him on Tuesday about the Heisman moment, and he hasn't hit the pose yet. And he said he's waiting for the moment's right. And most of the people I was talking to in that room were like, I think he's waiting for the final game. You know what I mean? That's when the moment's right. Like, hit it against South Carolina, cool. Hit it against Sanford's probably silly. He hits a Heisman pose against Texas in Austin. Like, that is, you talk about something that could really like drum up some fans. And I want to say this and put this on record. Like, the Heisman vote is there's a lot to it that the fans can have a point in that, right? Like the fans
Yeah.
doing the chants and the chills and the Marcel Reed chants, like that stuff helps. That stuff really does. Like, this
Yeah.
is humans voting for this. Like, fans have an impact on that. The 12th man can influence this, and it's not just smoke and mirrors. This is a legitimate contender, and fans could help try to push that over the finish line there.
That's what I was going to ask you next. It's almost a joke, but it feels like the chance thing might be what pushes us over the edge here, because it's going to gain this national notoriety. And this is a media award. The voters are guys that are, like I said this as a joke in another podcast, but it's like Vince Young is signing autographs in Target all day Saturday, and he gets home and watches the 6 p.m. ABC game. That's all he watches. So he gets a vote. We've got so many scenarios like that. So it's basically like, hey, these old players, they're just reading Twitter, they're just seeing what's said on ESPN. If Kirk Herbstreit's behind Marcel, if there's this whole movement behind him that just gains momentum, and then we go 12-0, beat Texas, he hits the pose in Austin on the game-winning touchdown. There's just no doubt. So we could talk about this forever, but
We could.
Yeah, I mean, and he was on ESPN like today, right? Like as we're recording this on Wednesday, like he's been that bye week. I saw more of Marcel and Mike Elko on podcasts and Busting with the Boys and ESPN. Like they understand that the national media plays into this, and it's obviously the play on the field has to warrant it, but marketing yourself is a massive part of this, and I think they understand that.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess, Heisman caliber talent, it's currently hurt. We get Le'Veon Moss back.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you have like an idea on when he's coming back?
yeah, I mean, so the way I've always looked at it and from like information I've gathered and conversations I've had was they're real about the idea that they think they can get him back before the end of the regular season. But the way it kind of works out and the way the running game is figured is if he wasn't here for South Carolina, it makes no sense to get him ready for Sanford, right? So if it's not South Carolina, the very earliest is Texas. And then you look at that and you say, do you push it? And how do you feel? Do you hold him off again? And does he, play in the SEC championship game? Does he play in the first round? Because he's going to be ready to go by whenever they tee it off, in the playoffs, whether that's December 19th or it's New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, he's going to be ready to go. So it's like, how far do you push it? And I think Texas is a real, like, hey, like possibly here, this could be the moment. And if he comes out and he plays in that game, there's that'll obviously be a boost, but do they have bigger fish to fry? Do they understand and think like, hey, man, we got bigger games to play from this moment? So I think it's possible, but I think they're going to play it smart because of the running game and how effective it's been with, Ruben Owens leading the charge.
I totally agree with you. I think playing it smart is the way to go. I don't want him back until he's 100% throwing up every few plays on the sidelines, the Le'Veon that we love. But in reality, though, I mean, me and TomAg were at the Florida game, and we're watching from basically that end zone view of the all 22 with our shitty seats. But we're looking down, and we're every time Le'Veon gets the ball, it's 3 yards minimum. He's running somebody over. He's moving the pile. That's been the type of guy he's always been. And we didn't have him last year for Texas. We know what happened on the goal line in the short yardage situations, which we've really fixed this year schematically with Colin Klein, the T formation. We have things ready for that I'm feeling much better going into that game. But it does feel like Le'Veon Moss, when it comes down to that moment where we need a guard against Texas, he's the guy that needs to have the rock. So we got to weigh it out and figure out what we're going to do there.
And think about this. I'm sure you guys have thought about this point too, but when he's back, they're going to agree that he's healthy enough to be on the field. But also, you got a Le'Veon Moss who hasn't played in 6 to 8 weeks. He's probably going to be the freshest running back in the conference at that point in time. Like, this is a guy who's hasn't taken a hit, and by that point in time, 2.5 months. So you got a fresh, healthy Le'Veon Moss for the most important games of the season. You still went unscathed without him. You never took a loss. If he can come out there and play and be ready for the playoffs, now you got the trickle down effect is crazy because Ruben Owens is the 2. Then you got, EJ Smith, Jamario Morrow, Amari Daniels. You got 4 or 5 running backs who can literally like make plays all over the field. And your best guy is healthy. He's going to be the freshest dude on the field. So that's a really encouraging sign. And I think they understand that.
Having that rotation and that depth during this time without him has been a godsend. But when he is on the field, he's the most talented guy out there and he's getting yards that no one else is getting.
And
sure.
I'll touch on something you said earlier, like getting him back, the morale boost. Like as a fan, you don't sense this sitting on the couch and watching. But whenever Le'Veon went down, there was a vacuum sucked all the air out of the stadium. It's like, oh no, is it repeated last year? What's gonna happen? Oh no, oh no. These guys stepped up. Once he comes back, that air is gonna come back to the stadium too. So
Yeah, and to a peek behind the curtain, I talk to Olin Buchanan all the time from TexAgs, and he's like, it's one of his favorite players because Le'Veon Moss is the hammer, not the nail in every situation. The guy wants to run through the face of a defensive player, and to have a guy with that mentality, who's like, he even said it, I've never run from a fight, paraphrasing, but to have that mentality in the backfield to know like if it's me versus you, it's going to be me every time, and it's just to add that back into it is another factor because they got weapons, they got speed, they got toys. You know what I mean? They got KC, Mario, Ashton Bethel, Roman. Now you get the guy who in the fourth quarter, the last thing you want to do is go and try to tackle this guy in the hole. It's just changes the complexion of this run game and this offense completely.
Yeah, and not only are you having that war of attrition where we're wearing down everybody the whole game, but since, Le'Veon doesn't have to take the workhorse load all game with the depth that we have and the rotation that we have, he does have those fresh legs in the fourth quarter, and it makes all the difference in the world. So that's going to be huge. Let's change gears a little bit. I've got a couple questions left for you. So we've heard some rumors, some rumblings that Penn State is all in on Elko. We don't know the validity of these statements. I mean, of course, they probably are. Who wouldn't want to be, given the success he's had this year? Do you think that there's any chance that the Aggies go ahead and wrap up an extension before the end of the year? Or do you think that this is going to get pushed off until after the season's over?
I've reached out. I've tried to reach out to sources and talk to people and just try to get a sense for that. They are really tight-lipped on it, and I think how it shakes out. I think ultimately it's going to be in A&M's favor. I think he's going to be here. I think this is where he wants to be. He's showing what he wants this program to be perennially, right? This is a 9-0 season. This is just scratching the surface for what this could be. Now, obviously, when you're playing this well and your team is this talented, people are going to come knocking, and they're going to have these false equivalencies to say, "Hey, you went to University of Penn, so he wants to coach at Penn State," even though they're not even really in the same stratosphere as far as location and school type and all that. So I think it just comes with success. And to answer your question more directly, I can't say definitively one way or the other, but I would be shocked if he would to go anywhere else other than Texas A&M.
And Tony, real quick, earlier we were talking, you said you were originally from Boston. I mean, Penn State's Northeast. Is the Penn State coaching job like that much better than Texas A&M in the eyes of like somebody from the Northeast?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, for me, I came down here. The SEC lore is just as big as anything else. Like, you want to go play in the best conference in the best state for football there is. He's familiar here. He has family here. He bought a house here. Like, there's so many things tying him to College Station. And what do you want to go up to Penn State and rebuild again? Like, he's in year 2 of finally starting to look like what he wants his program to look like. You want to start from scratch with an unknown. It's just there's so many pieces where unless the money is astronomical, I wouldn't even entertain it. And at that point, like, A&M understands what they have. This is a guy that's been with the team and the program on 2 different occasions. Now he's leading the charge, and A&M football has a different vibe around it than I think it ever has. And you want to keep those type of people around.
Air tastes different.
It does, I bet.
All right. So last question we have for you. You see title scenarios could go nuclear here with a couple losses. Obvious answer to that is just win out. What is your prediction for Texas A&M the rest of the way?
I think they do win out, and I do think they get there. If they don't win out, then I don't think there's it doesn't look good for them to not get there. And that's just how crazy the SEC is and just all the different scenarios where I feel way more secure about their college football playoff spot, which is damn near 100% at this point, compared to hey, are they going to even get in the SEC title game if they drop one in Austin? 11-1 is, they play with a very thin margin, and this is a program that hasn't won one, so they're going to go and try to get this title. I think there's ultimately more things to be worried about, like going to win a championship and going to win a national title and finding ways to get into that, but they want this championship. They want the SEC championship for sure, and man, I think they get there, but they're going to have to continue to be perfect to do it, in my opinion.
What do you think about the rest of this season?
I think when we looked at it, right, I always thought that October was like this daunting task, right? These are the games that are going to define their season. It just, whether it's A&M is way better than people thought or the competition was a little bit worse than people thought, A&M came out of there 9-0, and you got to be impressed with that. Going forward, I just don't see a game on their schedule that they A, won't be favored, or B, shouldn't win running away. Now, I think that Texas has different variables to it, right? Anytime there's Texas A&M, there is just different vibes around that. So you got to factor for that. But they're going to be just as talented, if not more talented than that team. They should blow the doors off South Carolina. Stanford, I'm chalking up as a W. I think everybody should do that. So we're sitting here saying, I mean, I picked them to go 10-2 preseason on record, and I was wrong. They're going to be better than 10-2. I thought their 2 losses were going to be to LSU and Texas, and I think they're going to, they already beat LSU. I think they're going to beat Texas. So I think 12-0 is the prevailing thought in my mind right now.
All right, Tony said it, not us. We're starting.
God dang it.
Well, hey, Tony, this has been an awesome 30 minutes. We appreciate you coming on. We're happy to have you anytime. You have any social media plugs or anything else you want to get off?
Yeah, first off, appreciate you guys for having me. It's always a good time to talk ball. So thanks again for having me. And then you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever at Tony_Catalina. And you can find all my content over at thestatesman.com.
Yeah, we're reposting his all 22 angles pretty much every day with the Marcel Heisman hype. So thanks again, Tony. We appreciate you.
For sure, guys. Thank you.